Sir DJ D-Rage, the baddest, each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra niceness of reggae music,
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. They don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street.
Critical issues are going to be discussed.
From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture,
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima.
Watu wengi hususia kilimo kwa sababu ya uchafu, kuchoka na kubeba mizigo migumu shambani.
Ufugaji wa crickets, for example, it's not labor intensive. Ili shamba lote tunahitaji mtu mmoja peke yake. Na hata huyo mtu mmoja hafanyi kazi siku mzima. Hata hafanyi kazi zote kwa wiki.
Kisha
kazi ya kilimo ndio pesa mfukoni. Huyo kijana amesoma hapo na anakataa, anasema ati kazi hii ni ya matope. Ajue pesa iko kwa mdogo.
Usikose kujumuika nami Francis Ngala siku ya Jumamosi saa 10:30 upate mseto kamili wa kilimo.
Umetenganisha watu, wanandoa, watu uko karibia kashachumbiana, ametuana bado ndoa, umosambaratisha. Anatuambia
Welcome to Prime Edition, coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. Confusion and concerns have persisted as Kenyans struggle with the Shashi model tonight. The health CS.
Yes. Edwin Dwale vows to revamp the nation's healthcare system. Also in the program tonight,
water here, water there, but not a single drop to drink. That is what forms the basis of the bigger conversation that's coming up on The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Regina, good evening.
Over to you,
Well,
Regina.
thank you very much, Irene and Tom. They're back in Broadcasting House, as we mentioned. Today, the shift has shifted to the ones that mind our water and sanitation. I'm talking about the Kenya Water Institute that is established by the Act of KEWI 2001. And is mandated to offer training, administer examinations, as well as offer research and consultancy services in the water and water sector. Now, being semi-autonomous, and a government agency, KEWI is also funded by the government and also, mandated to generate its own revenue by offering services along the water sector. Now, also this particular act mandates the institute to provide a forum for effective collaboration between the public as well as private sector partners, interested parties in as far as development of water and sanitation sector is concerned. So tonight, as we discuss the hits and misses 2.5 years in when it comes to the delivery of better, looking at matters water and sanitation, what a better host. See you soon. Back to you.
Many thanks indeed. Of course, we're looking forward to that conversation. You can also tweet us on our social media platforms, which are
at KBC Channel 1 on X, Facebook, and YouTube.
But first things first, a look at our top stories on this live broadcast.
Refocus. President Ruto tells his opponents, accusing them of personalized attacks on his character instead of serving Kenyans.
Kalonzo's team calls for government opposition consensus on new IEBC commissioners, alleging plans to rig 2027 poll.
High Court declares as unconstitutional government directive on e-citizen school fees payments.
Good evening once again. My name is Mboya.
I am Muchuma Odim. Talk to our lead story, Tom.
That's right. President William Ruto is tonight calling out his political opponents seeking to unseat him in the upcoming 2027 general poll, urging them to present their policies to the public rather than attacking his administration.
Speaking in Garashi Comprehensive School, Laikipia County, marking the start of his 5-day visit to the region, President Ruto accused his critics of lacking a clear vision and urged residents of the region not to entertain divisive politics that could hinder economic and development growth. As this story begins this bulletin in one that is having a sign language expert, being Susan Thuku.
After 6 months of absence from the region,
leo mimi nimekuja kufungua majengo haya.
President William Ruto, accompanied by Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki, cabinet secretaries and a host of leaders from the region, started his tour of the Mount Kenya region in Laikipia and Nyeri counties.
Watu ya Laikipia, nego kana tiguo, nego raiwirandia, tunaelewana.
It is here in Laikipia County where the head of state took a swipe at government critics.
Kuna wengine wanaendesha propaganda potovu ya kwamba kuna watu watabaguliwa Kenya hii. I want to assure you, there is no community, there is no county, there is no region that is going to be sidelined in the broad-based government.
We will not waste time trying to argue
with people without an agenda for Kenya, with people without an agenda for any part of this country.
Speaking in Garashi Comprehensive School, Laikipia County, President Ruto accused his opponents of clinging on tribal cards for political survival.
Musikubali viongozi wa chuki na ukabila kutugawanya. Nyinyi watu wa Laikipia mlinipatia kura zenu.
I'll be a steady assistant, a steady deputy right behind you, family. And together with my colleagues, we are going to deliver Kenya to the promised land under your leadership.
The president further urged the residents of the region to give a dead ear to politicians spewing divisive politics that could hinder development in the region.
Sio lazima mmoja atoke ndio mwingine aingie. Hii serikali inatutosha sisi wote.
Sijui wewe ukai kama unabishana na rais, kwani tangu siku gani kazi ya naibu ya rais imekuwa ya kupigana na rais? Kwani mimi ni kiongozi wa upinzani?
The president assured the locals that their security has been assured, especially following several attacks carried out by bandits who have been contained through the Operation Maliza Uhalifu, spearheaded by the Kenya Defence Forces.
Ukosefu wa usalama na wananchi kukosa kuishi kwao kwa sababu ya magaidi na wakora na wale matapeli, watu wanaotuharibia amani. Mimi niliwahakikishia ya kwamba hiyo maneno ya ukosefu wa usalama sehemu hii tutakabiliana nayo.
During the developmental tour, the president said the administration spent 200 million shillings to rehabilitate 9 schools that were severely damaged. During the tour, the president flagged off the last mile connectivity program in both Laikipia and Nyeri, undertook the inspection of Nyanyuki Modern Market, laid foundation stone at Nyanyuki DEB Primary, toured the Nyanyuki Affordable Housing Project, and inspected a market in Narumoru Town, Nyeri County, among other development programs. With the president successfully touring Laikipia and Nyeri County, tomorrow he's expected to tour Meru and Kirinyaga counties. Abdiaziz Hashim from Nyanyuki, Laikipia County.
Thank you, Abdiaziz Hashim, for that report. Now, from the mountain to the capital, former Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Deputy Chief Executive Officer Betty Singura and former journalist Bevin Angela Boke are among the 6 candidates who faced the Nelson Makanda-led selection panel on Tuesday as the search for IEBC commissioners continues.
All the candidates interviewed on the 3rd day of vetting were asked to explain how their competencies will help to improve the corporate image of the electoral body and also to rebuild public trust.
Give us on Maina with the details.
Kiambu County Elections Manager Arnold Mutiri Jafani was the first to face the IEBC selection panel on the 3rd day of vetting on Tuesday. Jafani says if considered, he will propose the introduction of electronic voting and tallying for efficiency.
The vote can be exposed to a scanner that will count the vote. We can use that technology to avoid the issue of too much recounting and recounting.
Next was former IEBC Deputy CEO Betty Singura, who was taken to task over the Bangol elections of 2017 when she was in charge of operations.
People go and poll, but when it comes to the result transmission element, something happens at that point. And what would I do differently? Is to really then, when I join IBC as a commissioner, is to sit with colleagues and together with the chairperson and really put there what is this that brings transmission issues to a lot of mistrust.
Former journalist Bevin Angela Boke was asked to explain how her skills and competencies will help to improve IBC's corporate image.
Do we have branding guidelines within? Do we have policies that guide our branding guidelines? Because that also informs the corporate image of the IEBC. There's also a language of how we need to talk to the media. You just don't every time you're talking to the media. There's a way we need to train ourselves on how to even speak to the camera.
On her side, Celestine Rono, unaccounted by profession, said if successful, she'll propose a reduction of polling stations from the current 45,000 to 22,000 to reduce the cost of elections.
If you can get to push it at least
more, you'll be able to save a lot on the polling stations, that the number of staff that you employ in polling stations, because maybe if it is an example, if it's 4 clerks as per the supervisors.
Charles Mine and Crispin Owie were the last applicants to face the panel on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Nelson Makanda-led selection panel will interview 6 candidates. The interviews are expected to end on Thursday, the 24th of April. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
Let's stay with the electoral beat now. The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition wing led by Kalonzo Musyoka is alleging a scheme to rig the 2027 elections through what they claim to be skewed recruitment of IEBC commissioners.
The opposition is now demanding inclusive talks, bringing together the government side and the opposition before the appointment of successful candidates for the positions of chairman and commissioners.
J.J. Curia puts that story in perspective.
With the interviews for the next Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission chairperson having concluded last week, the search has shifted to the remaining 6 commissioners before the IEBC selection panel identifies successful candidates and forwards their names to the president for appointment. A process the opposition now claims it has no faith in. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who leads the group, alleges a plot to rig the elections through the recruitment of individuals who allegedly have links with the government or ODM.
Swala hili lina umuhimu mkubwa sana, na sisi hatutakaa kitako tu na kungojea uamuzi wa pande moja kutoa list ya wale ambao watakuwa wameteuliwa kama wenyekiti ama mwenyekiti na pia wanachama wa tume ya IEBC.
We wish to point out the case of Joy Midivo. She has been the chairperson of the UDA Internal Dispute Resolution Committee. It is clear that Ms. MS Midivo is not eligible for consideration for appointment as IEBC Commissioner as stipulated in Article 88.
The opposition claiming a choreographed scheme to sidestep qualified and suitable candidates.
Quite a number of those who made the list have questionable credentials, and some of them have partisan interests and are either members of the UDA party and the ODM party or managing somebody within UDA.
They have called for a multi-stakeholders consultation before the chairperson and commissioners are appointed.
Hatuko kwenye broad-based. Kwa hivyo haiwezekani pahala tumefikia Bwana Raila na Bwana Ruto wakutane kwenye ikulu wakiwa watu wa broad-based wasemezane peke yao. Hiyo itakuwa kinyume na yale maafikiano yalikuwa kule Bomas ya NADCO.
Kipindi hiki, safari hii, we are not leaving anything to chance.
They are warning of pursuing legal avenues if the government side does not exhibit any goodwill. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
On to the state of affairs at Afi House.
Healthcare facilities contracted by the Social Health Authority will henceforth receive payment for their claims by the 14th of each month, Health Cabinet Secretary Edin Duale has said.
He made those remarks after officially taking up his new role at the Afi House. Duale has, in addition, outlined an ambitious roadmap to revamp the country's healthcare system, prioritizing financial accountability, improving service delivery, and also enhancing patient care.
The CS in particular vowed to take on rogue elements, manipulating systems to defraud the country health resources, as compiled in this report.
Close to 8 months after Deborah Barasa Mlongo took over as Health Cabinet Secretary, Afya House on Tuesday witnessing another change of guard, with Mlongo handing over to Aden Duale. Duale seemed to know exactly what ails Health Ministry and the remedy for it.
3 million fake people who are accessing NHIF resources were found out. We will push their names and we will push their facilities, entities and locations. We must tell the Kenyan people the truth.
Acknowledging the pending bills that are derailing the efficiency of the Social Health Authority, SHA, Duale directed that all claims owed to hospitals be paid by the 14th of each month.
All the system hitches will be addressed to for a very seamless service delivery of SHA. And that, I can assure you, we will have a timeline tomorrow when we sit with the stakeholders.
The CIS further announced enhanced shift packages for critical care and cancer treatment, with rebates for intensive care unit and high dependency unit beds set to rise to 28,000 shillings per day, while oncology patients will benefit from an enhanced treatment package of 550,000 shillings per individual.
So if I am to be called a bulldozer, let me be a bulldozer for the universal health coverage. Let me be a bulldozer for maternal health, for women's health, for strengthening our capacity to prevent and manage non-communicable diseases.
However, Duale's first day in office was not without drama, as tens of universal health coverage workers staged a sit-down at Afya House to demand to be absorbed on permanent and pensionable terms. Joseph Ohungu for Prime Edition.
That's the story that brings us to our first break here on Prime Edition here at Broadcasting House, Nairobi, Kenya.
When we return, we'll be bringing you more details with the clarity you deserve. Stay with us.
Town Express! 20, town! Okay, town, 20. Bado haijajaa dereva watu wengine 7.
Kwani wazako si ungekulia kwenu? Hizo umetoka wapi? Mimi sitaki mahindi leo.
Wewe unanichia mkate.
Siagusi mkate fubi.
Wewe ongea bora usikuze mkate yangu.
Si ushike hii. Nataka kukulia huko mbali na mimi. Si mimi nakulamiwa ni wewe.
Donda, gari imejaa na bado unasema watu waingie. Tuambie dereva hapo apunguze wimbo. Niongee na kama hapa.
Hakuna volume inapunguzwa hapa. Kama unataka kuendesha gari yako, enda dial *570#, option ya 3. Watu wanaendesha magari hapa nje na wewe bado unapiga nyanyenye kwa matatu.
Option 3,
unalipa ama unasuka?
Comfort yako iko kwa *570#, option 3. Master Genio moja safi, reliable, modern safety and security features. Cheza mara kadhaa ujaze entry tickets zako kwenye draw ili uimarishe uwezo wa kushinda. Mshindi tunamtangaza 27th of April na gari tutakufikishia.
Umeme unaenda maweni. Mimi sindi na madri nishainuka na *570#.
Inuka na Genio kwa *570#, option 3.
Asante.
Unaona vile mtoto analia alafu watu wanakuambia nyamaza. Sisi wakati yeye alilia, the first cry, tulitoa machozi.
Neurological conditions si uchawi. Hawajarogwa. Neurological conditions or disability haiambukizani, maana si ugonjwa.
If I tell them up like no ako sawa, no ako tuna challenges zake but ako sawa. Yeye hapo si angekuwa ng'ombe tungemchinja. Differently.
Welcome back to Prime Edition, our socials.
At KBC Channel 1 on X, Facebook and YouTube.
And there's a question I was asking my colleague here. What is shaping Kenya's water future?
Today we'll be shifting to the shift at Kewi. My colleague Regina Manyara is on standby. And those are the things we'll be looking at in far and wide. But there are developments tonight, Tom, on the Ministry of Environment. The new Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Deborah Baraza, has pledged to strengthen environmental policies and ensure effective enforcement.
That's right. She made that commitment when she officially took over the docket from Aden Duale, who has taken charge at the ministry of Health. Let's listen into that report.
During the handover ceremony at Social Health Authority building in Nairobi, Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Dr. Deborah Baraza pledged to collaborate with the National Environment Management Authority to tackle pressing environmental challenges, including the continued use of asbestos, a hazardous material with significant health and ecological risks.
Please make sure she gets the opportunity to address them on the ban on asbestos and plastics. On March 11, I tabled a brief on asbestos. You were there. The risk it causes to public health. Now you are a medic. And the president, as a chair of the cabinet, led in making sure that we approve a nationwide asbestos removal initiative from the public.
I pledge to lead this docket agenda in close collaboration with ministry staff, communities, development partners, and other stakeholders with three guiding principles: urgency, inclusion, and innovation. The enforcement of environmental legislation is critical in safeguarding our natural resources and public health.
And at the Railways headquarters in Nairobi, outgoing Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi officially handed over the ministry to the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi.
For that short stint of 7 months and 15 days that I served at the ministry, I received utmost cooperation from all the staff in the ministry. That we say that we wanted to ensure that the public service is efficient, effective, agile, fit for purpose for the 21st century.
So I want to commend the Honorable Justin Muturi here, that in keeping with that spirit of wanting order and process and procedure, we are today practicing it as he hands over our well-documented report on the functions and operations of the Ministry of Public Service, Human Capital Development and Special Programs.
Muturi was dropped as a cabinet secretary in the recent cabinet reshuffle and reappointments by President William Ruto. President Ruto nominated Mbeere North Member of Parliament Geoffrey Ruku for the position. Martini Maslin for Prime Edition.
Let's now move into the latest from Parliament.
Senators now want Nyamira Governor Amos Nyaribo summoned to appear before the Senate plenary after it emerged that the county runs on 2 parallel county assemblies.
While reacting to a statement by Nyamira Senator over the crisis in county assembly that has seen county affairs handled outside of the assembly, senators accused the governor of deliberately undermining oversight in Nyamira and hence the need to hold him accountable.
Kamche Mensa with the details.
The supremacy battle rocking Nyamira County, where impeached Speaker Enoch Okero and his deputy Thaddeus Nyabaro are holding separate sessions, came to the attention of the Senate on Tuesday. Nyamira Senator Okongo Mogeni sought Senate's intervention, saying the crisis has paralyzed the county's legislative affairs. This prompted the senators to demand that Governor Amos Nyaribo appears before the whole House to shed light on this impasse.
And I'm disappointed that the devolution committee should have taken this matter. You cannot have 2 speakers, 2 messes, 2 seals, 2 clerks, Madam Speaker. But I want to think, because I've been following Nyamira politics, is that the governor is a very sharp politician. Because after the failed impeachment, he decided to create chaos in the county assembly.
Huu uchawi ambao unaendelea ndani ya Nyamira ukome. Huyu aweze kuitwa hapa vile ambavyo tunamuita hapa, aje hapa, asiende kwa kamati, aje hapa aonekane na nyumba nzima yote ya bunge la Senate, ili tuweze kumhoji na kumuuliza vizuri sana.
Governor Nyaribo is also on the spot over audit queries on some 5.5 billion shillings expenditure.
The situation in Nyamira is such a pathetic one that it beats logic what to call it or name it.
Counties have conflicts, but the dysfunction in the county of Nyamira, Madam Speaker, is the greatest threat to devolution in this country.
Meanwhile, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja was grilled by the Senate Committee on Energy over the recent debt dispute between the county and the Kenya Power and Lighting Company that degenerated into acts that brought the county government into disrepute.
I owe them 1.5, they owe me 5 billion. How can my agreement only show what I'm paying and say nothing about what they're paying the county? You're protecting the interests of the county. So you do not expose, and you see, it is not a finished process. So the agreement that I can stand and hold is one that acknowledges both debts. That one, that is the one I will sign. I'm sorry, we don't have to agree.
What's stopping you, Governor? What challenges are you having?
Because they refused
so please,
when the governor.
And the National Committee on Appointments has until 24th of April to vet and submit its report on the suitability of 2 Cabinet Secretary nominees, namely Geoffrey Ruku and Hannah Wendot Cheptumo.
The Committee on Appointments is expected to immediately commence the approval, hearing and report back to the House by Thursday, 24th April 2025, to allow consideration by the House within the statutory time.
Speaker Wetangula directed that relevant committees to vet permanent secretaries and ambassadorial nominees and table report on their suitability by 23rd of April for debate and approval. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
Let's now shift gears to the corridors of justice, Tom.
Where the High Court has declared school fee payment on e-citizen unconstitutional.
Delivering the ruling, Justice Chacha Mwita prohibited the government from enforcing the directive, stating there was no public participation conducted before its implementation.
Meanwhile, the Director of Public Prosecution has approved manslaughter charges against Body by Design Clinic proprietors and a surgeon who allegedly performed a botched operation on a patient late last year.
Have a look.
The government has suffered a blow after the High Court ruled that the directive requiring parents to pay school fees through the e-citizen platform is unconstitutional. Judge Mwita also noted that the 50-shilling convenience fees charged on transactions has no legal basis. The court emphasized that charging parents an additional fees amounts to double taxation. The court further questioned the integrity and the transparency of the e-citizen platform, stating that it is unclear who collects the funds and where they are deposited. The case was filed by Nakuru-based Dr. Magare Gikenyi, who argued that no legislation or framework is guiding how the funds are utilized or returned to the end users. The court has further declined to stay its orders for 90 days to allow the government to file an appeal. Elsewhere, Kibera Law Court has ordered 4 suspects to appear in court on Wednesday, 2nd April 2025 for plea taking in connection with the death of Lucy Mboya late last year after an alleged botched surgery at Body by Design Clinic in Lavington, Nairobi.
The accused persons, through their able counsel, are well aware what to do should they feel aggrieved by whatever decisions are made by this equally very able court.
This is after the Director of Public Prosecution informed the court that they intend to charge the suspects with manslaughter. The court witnessed a back and forth as the defense and prosecution teams accuse each other of dishonesty and misleading the court on matters of fact.
You want to read the mischief of the state? And dismiss the question of warrants of arrest?
Philip Nyachoti and Joe Murage, appearing for Lucy's family, urged the court to expedite their case, saying justice delayed is justice denied.
But I do believe upon taking plea, we shall be trying to ensure that they do not operate at least until these proceedings here are concluded. That would be one of our pursuits.
Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Now take you to the counties. Tension continues to escalate in Goliba, Thika East, as President William Ruto's visit to Kiambu County approaches, with plans to launch and commission several projects.
Now the county and national governments are in dispute over ownership of Ngoliba Market construction.
Details on this and other stories making headlines in our county news roundup.
At Ngoliba, Thika East, Kiambu County, armed police officers were stationed around the market day and night, raising concerns among locals about which state department is in charge of the market's construction. Governor Kimani Wamatangi has now ordered the suspension of all works at the facility until the standoff is resolved.
Mimi sina wasiwasi, hiyo mambo inaendelea huko nje, haiwezi kufanya mimi nikose kufanya kazi yangu. Wache wenye wanapanga huko na hata kwenda kujaribu kuharibu jina yangu huko juu, ate huyo jamaa ndiye anaharibingi kazi Kiambu. Ile kitu tu nimesema na nataka nirudie hapa. Nilisema kwa mdomo mkubwa na narudia leo mchana wazi. Shamba za mwana Kiambu ni za mwana Kiambu.
In Nairobi County, a section of squatters in Ruai settlement scheme is urging the national government to protect them and their lands from illegal land grabbers.
Tumefikiana kwamba shamba yenyewe ni kubwa. Sisi wenyewe vile beacon zilikuwa zimewekwa sababu ziliondolewa zote, na ndio tumearifu members wetu bado tuna mlima mbele yetu ya kurudisha beacon vile zilikuwa, ndio ndiposa kila mtu apate kurudi mahali pake.
Meanwhile, youth and women's farming groups in Busia County have been challenged to collaborate with the county's Department of Agriculture to increase yields.
Shauri wangu kwao ni kwamba wakuwe karibu na idara ya mifugo. Wakiona dalili yoyote kama ya ugonjwa ama hata kabla wakuwe wagonjwa, wakuwe karibu na idara ya mifugo ili waelekezwe kuzuia maugonjwa na kuhakikisha kwamba hawa mifugo wanakuwa kufikia umri ya soko.
Elsewhere, parents of children with disabilities have been encouraged to support their children's education and help them demonstrate their talents through sports.
This is also an activity whereby we create awareness that disability is not inability. So we are encouraging our parents who are having the children at home to take a challenge in life positively, so that through this activity our children showcase that they can also perform well.
Finally, more than 1,100 students have been registered at Mboya University in Homa Bay County to undertake German language lessons as part of a program designed to secure employment opportunities in Europe. The initiative aims to equip learners with the necessary language skills to meet the requirements for overseas job placements.
We need every year 450,000 skilled young workers from all over the world. They can have a bright future in the German-speaking countries in Europe.
This is the team, the class that has started, and we expect them to proceed and pass. Peter says 80, we prefer that if we had 100% pass, so that they go and work in Germany.
Exactly the same. Christine Matunda, Prime Edition.
Production.
Let's now shift to Parliament buildings. The University of Nairobi is appealing to Supreme Court Judge William Oko to arbitrate the governance disputes between the University's Council and the management.
The National Assembly Education Committee, while inspecting the institution, was shocked to learn that the situation has led to 16 court cases.
Gishuki Washira with the details.
The National Assembly Education Committee toured the University of Nairobi in a bid to resolve the ongoing conflict between the University Council and the management occasioned by governance reforms. Acting Vice-Chancellor Professor Margaret Jesang alluding to a toxic relationship between the management and the council.
The confusion around separation of powers between the council and the management resulted in the introduction by resolution of the corporation secretary and the relegation of the vice chancellor to an ex-officio member only. This change has led to problems with record keeping, accountability by the accounting officer, and in the management of the affairs of the council.
Professor Jesang cited suspension of senior lecturer Dr. Maloba Wekesa, who is also the university's academic staff union UON chapter secretary, as an example of the situation.
We are saying that this university is the chair of the council who is running the day-to-day activities of the universities, including administrative issues. Because you know that question, chair, cannot just be left pending unless we get into the conclusion that the VC is no longer in charge of administration.
Even if there is a resolution, there are certain actions that are supposed to be done by the council
through management. They authorize management to do it. But it's not the chairman council to do the clerk work of transferring staff, sacking staff. That's not their duty.
Members of Parliament observed there was failure to adhere to rules and regulations in recruitment processes, particularly in the newly created positions.
That the Vice Chancellor, we've noted as a Committee of Education that the university has failed consistently to stick to management or the university statute. You have flouted the rules on recruitment, you have flouted the rules on constitution of management, and in effect the council itself has taken the mandate of management to run the university on day-to-day affairs.
The governance dispute at the Kenya's premier institution of higher learning has led to 16 court cases. Concerns abound that accruing legal fees might cause more damage to the already financially constrained institution.
It is evident that there is toxic relationship among the management, the council and the management. Because if you are not talking to each other, the council makes decisions, management is supposed to implement for the benefit of the institution. I want to believe that the reason why we have so many cases in court.
I have reached out to the Justice Ouko of the High Court or the Supreme Court. I actually told them to come and have a sit down, because I believe that when we communicate around the table and we say this
for an
arbitrator, because I don't see, because if we continue going to the law, to the courts, it will just perpetuate, and the lawyers are just happy to have that money going back and forth. And the University of Nairobi has got 220 billion worth of assets. They will be more than happy to keep dragging the university for life.
Further, the university management wants Parliament to assist in clearing outstanding statutory obligations that amount to 7.7 billion shillings. Gishoki Washira, Prime Edition.
Jet A1, cheza avieta bila data bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Avieta bila data, avieta bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.
The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Welcome back. Shaping Kenya's water future is the topic tonight on The Shift.
And we'll be shifting to Kewi. Regina Manyara is on standby. And today we'll be discussing what issues, Tom?
The issues of water. I remember we teased it a little earlier on. We said water here, water there, but not a single drop to drink. So that's going to form part of the bigger conversation that Regina will be having. Over to you, Regina.
Good evening once again, and we are just in time to put matters into perspective when you look at matters water and sanitation. They say water is life. So for every 10% that we produce, we create, waste of around 7%. So as we're producing, we also have to look at how we handle that waste. We're going to be giving details as we proceed on the shift. So the bottom-up economic transformation agenda promised at least 500 water projects for grassroots economies, budgeted around 45 billion shillings for the Maji Ni Maisha initiative targeting rural areas to improve water access, as well as the sanitation law, which is a draft bill to criminalize open defecation during the first quarter of 2025. 2 years in, has this been met? So tonight, Principal Secretary Water and Sanitation Julius Korir is joining us to discuss the hits and misses of the Water and Sanitation Department as envisioned under better. Good evening once again. I'm Regina Manyara, and this is A Shift. In the audience also, we have the Chief Executive Officer of the headquarters that is hosting us tonight. That is the Kenya Water Institute, flanked by various departmental heads as well as sector managers and across the other three campuses or institutes across the country. Remember, you can also be part of this conversation. You can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. What is your take in regard to matters of water and sanitation? One of our questions that we were asking you is, what is your main source of water at home? What is your main source of water at home? Second question tonight is, do you think we take water harvesting seriously enough? Do you think we take water harvesting seriously enough? And last but not least, why is open defecation still a problem in Kenya? Get us on X at KBC Channel 1, just to remind you that this is A Shift, and today we are at Kewi to discuss matters water. Thank you, Bwana PS, for making time.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's start off by getting to know how you interact with water on a personal capacity. So, what have you done, on a personal capacity as a consumer to save on water, or save consumption?
Thank you, Regina, for this opportunity where we will share with you about the achievements and the projects that were going on in water. I think you've asked a very personal question on what I'm doing on my own capacity on issues of water. I think I practice domestic harvesting. So I have put gutters in my house, both here in Nairobi and also up country. And I'm collecting water from the rains, which contribute to about 40 to 50% of my needs. I've also built a masonry tank, and I'm encouraging my neighbors at home on how to go about it. Even when we realize that also the purchase of a tank is very expensive, we innovated. You dig a hole, then you line it with polythene, and then you cover it nicely, and you're able to store water up to the tune of even 100,000 cubic meters. And that way, for places where modern supply of water is not available, you are able to live long times during the dry season. So those are some of the things that we do. And so maybe it's natural that I'm here now.
Good. I like that you're also doing something that the community is emulating back at home. Water has often been overlooked, so to speak. Water was not considered, water and sanitation. We always have water and irrigation, or water at, the county level. Then we had the municipal council there. Now we find water and sanitation. But when you talk about the essence of water, we are still not getting enough water even where we should. So let's look at the last mile connectivity. So what is the status report on this?
Maybe before I go to giving the status report, I would like first of all to maybe give a background information. As you've rightly said, investments in water for a long time has not been adequate, and that's why we are lagging behind. Then when we were now coming into the new dispensation of the Constitution, our drafters realized that there had to be a more deliberate effort by government, or we had to compel government to be more deliberate in the provision of water. So what was done was, under Article 43, water was made a right to citizen. So which meant that government had to be deliberate, has to invest, and then there are pronouncements under the UN and other Africa, like Africa Agenda, where a certain proportion of the GDP has to be dedicated to water and sanitation. Now, for the purpose of, for the case of Kenya, I think we have the proper grounding. we have put water and sanitation as a right, basic right to a human being, and that is where we give water to to the citizens, and also making sanitation as a dignity conferment to our people. And so on the basis of that, after the new constitution, we've been now more deliberate in allocation of resources. And at the onset of the constitution, I think the allocation for water was around 2 billion shillings, and that was in 2010. But as we are talking now, the allocation to water has risen to a high of 90 billion. And that's why you're able to see quite a number of projects that have been ongoing in the country. You've heard of Karumeno Dam, which is here in supplying water to Nairobi. The Northern Collector was a product of that effort. Thwake Dam, which you mentioned earlier on, which is also under implementation, and so many other projects. It's only that in this recent last 2-3 years, because of the fiscal space, that high allocation up to 90 billion has declined. Now it's around about 47 billion. But we believe as the economy improves, we will again continue increasing the allocations to water. So that's why there've been a slow delivery of water projects. But that notwithstanding, some of the milestones that we've been able to achieve over the last 3 years is that when this administration started, water coverage was at 70%. Now we are at 73%. That means 73% of the population is getting water within reasonable distance. Either within your house or within a kilometer, a maximum from your home. So 73% of citizens are getting water at that close. We've also expanded sanitation, especially well managed. And this is where now we have, when we talk about sanitation, we say about 93% Kenyans have access to sanitation facilities. However, the proper sewerage is very low. And this was mainly the investments was mainly in the urban centers, the former municipalities. But again, over the last 5 years or so, we've brought in another about 17 counties, urban centers, into well-managed sanitation. And that has increased now the well-managed sanitation from around 16% to around 43%.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, with that overview, now let's start off with water. You've said 73% access water at a reasonable distance, if not right at their doorstep. So that leaves around 27. Now let's address the 27. As you said, that this is a right. Now, one of the pillars or the targets was the last mile connectivity. So from where we sit, how are we looking at, and especially with a close look at the Northern Collector Tunnel?
Now, the last mile connectivity, again, the drafters of Constitution were very elaborate in their thinking that there are roles that national government will do, and then there are roles that the county governments will do. Now, as national government, we do in water harvesting, cross-county water systems, bulk water treatment and transmission. Then this customer-facing investments will be done by the counties. The last mile connectivity.
That is the counties.
That is the counties. So when you look at the investments we did between 2010 and now, most of it was looking at availing water in bulk to the county the designated areas, hoping that now the counties will do the last mile. But our experience has shown us that counties are very slow. They don't have the capacity. So in the last 3 years, we've now changed our approach again as the national government. We're saying, citizens don't know the difference between serikali. Serikali is gatusi, serikali government is government.
Yes.
So we said we are now going to increased investment in the support the counties in the last mile. Right. So like for instance, in the last about 2 years, there's a project under the IDB that we've been doing, which has connected about 630,000 people to water. But because the last mile was limited, we made some savings in that project. Now we are doing the last mile. If the people have been seeing the newspapers over the last 3 or so so weeks. We have advertised some in Ugenya, Migori, Uasin Gishu, Nandi, even Kitale. So all those now we are going into the last mile because we want to maximize on the connectivity. But again, we continue to urge the county governments that with a small, because what happens is that they own the water service providers like Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. It's owned by Nairobi County. So when water comes in, they charge the customers. So we're asking them, dedicate part of that revenue to availing water or expanding the distribution.
Now, we have the urban-rural divide. Currently, statistics opine that 60% rely on expensive water vendors, costing at least 10 times more than piped waters, especially in the slums. From where you sit, what is being done in this regard?
What we've done is that in areas where maybe the informal settlements, for instance, what we do is that we invest in what we call water kiosks, which are run by the county government or the communities themselves. So like in certain places here in Nairobi, because maybe it's not possible to pipe water to every home. So at designated points within the informal settlement, we do water kiosk. And then we set up a team of the residents around there to man it. And then in the process, they will be able to collect some fee from it and be able to now pay to the water service provider. So those are some of the things that we're doing. In other places, we're also drilling boreholes so that they have dedicated water sources within their environments here. Then for the rural, again, as I said, this is a program that is supposed to be delivered by the county governments. But as I've said earlier, that they have capacity challenges. What we've done is we are now mapping schools around the rural places, and then we are investing in boreholes or abstracting water from springs or water pans. Then as we supply water to the school, you'll find that around the schools there are urban centers that are coming up, centers. So through that we give now water to the communities around there. So we are serving the students, but at the same time also the community. So we install water kiosks, we install last mile connectivity to a few concentrated villages so that they can get water.
So where there are gaps, we are having Kenyans raise concern over private water companies, prioritizing affordability, profits over affordability there. What are you doing to address this?
We have an institution within the ministry called Water Services Regulatory Board, WASREP. This is a body that licenses service providers in the water sector. So, and then we work. So first of all, we license the county water service providers, as I've said, like Nairobi Water and Sanitation Company. Then together with the water service provider, we designate areas where maybe the service provider is not able to supply. So we identify a suitable supplier, then they are taken through the regulatory requirements, and we even set prices for them, so they cannot just set arbitrary prices. The only problem is that at time enforcing is where there is a problem. And because the deficit of water is very high, you'll find that our ability to regulate is also constrained, because now water is urgent, is life, and people want it now. They don't want to wait for...
We can't wait for water. Water is life.
Yeah.
We'll be picking up on the next question that I'm going to be asking after we take this quick break then. Is it criminal to be providing water without the right documentation? You will be answering that when we come back. Remember, tonight we're looking at the hits and misses of water and sanitation 2.5 years in, and our conversation is being driven by none other than Principal Secretary in charge of water and sanitation, Julius Korir. We invite your feedback. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1.
Kupitia ukipigia *570 hash, tunakupa nafasi ya kuchomoka na this beautiful Mazda Demio. Enjoy a beautiful, clean, semi-leather interior, low mileage, fuel-efficient 1300cc engine, great for personal use and business. Ukitaka kujishindia gari hii, kucheza ni rahisi sana. Chukua simu yako, bonyeza *570 hash, chagua option 3. And for only 35 shillings, hii gari inaweza kuwa yako. Kumbuka kucheza mara kadhaa, because the more you play, the higher chances of wewe kuwa mshindi.
Mungu ni mwema, asante Mungu. Ile nitakuwa naendesha hivi.
Dial *570 hash and make this dream car yours.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Umetenganisha watu wanandoa, watu uko karibia kashachumbiana, ametuana bado ndoa, umwasambaratisha. Anatuambia kwamba tuseme hivi, Allah anasemaje? Anasema innal munafiqina fi ad-darkil asfali minan nar wa lan tajida lahum nasira illa alladhina tabu wa aslahu. Yani wewe umefanya uovu, umefanya unafiki. Pengine watu ni wanandoa wamekaa muda, wana miaka, mpaka wanawajukumua sambaratisha kwa unafiki wako, kwa uongo wako ulioka sumu yako. Alafu Allah anaelezea kwamba wasipotubia kama innal munafiqina fi ad-darkil asfali minan nar, watakuwa fi ad-darkil asfali minan nar, watakuwa katika kina cha chini cha ndani ya moto wa jahannam.
لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق. I know my life ain't perfect, but I don't have to worry, 'cause I've got all that I need right here in my life.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street.
Critical issues are going to be discussed.
From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1.
Umetenganisha watu wanandoa, watu uko karibia kashachumbiana, ametuana bado ndoa, umwasambaratisha. Anatuambia kwamba tuseme hivi, Allah anasemaje? Anasema innal munafiqina fi ad-darkil asfali minan nar wa lan tajida lahum nasira illa alladhina tabu wa aslahu. Yani wewe umefanya uovu, umefanya unafiki. Pengine watu ni wanandoa wamekaa muda, wana miaka, mpaka wanawajukumua sambaratisha kwa unafiki wako, kwa uongo wako ulioka sumu yako. Alafu Allah anaelezea kwamba wasipotubia kama innal munafiqina fi ad-darkil asfali minan nar, watakuwa fi ad-darkil asfali minan nar, watakuwa katika kina cha chini cha ndani ya moto wa jahannam.
لقد صدق الله رسوله الرؤيا بالحق. I know my life ain't perfect, but I don't have to worry, 'cause I've got all that I need right here in my life.
The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Welcome back. This is A Shift, and before we took a quick breather, we were having a conversation, and the last question was, then should we vet those who vend water to ensure safety? What is your take? Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. This is A Shift. Bona P.S. Now the gaps of the 27%, anyone can actually sell water, vend water. Is there a way to scrutinize who has the capacity and who is actually supplying safe water?
Okay, there are mainly two sources of water. There are those who will drill boreholes, and for them to be able to operate a borehole, they have to be licensed by Water Resources Authority. And by the virtue, and one of the requirements is that the water will be tested to ensure that it meets the standards. Once they meet the standards, the license is given for them to abstract. Then on that one now, you will find people sell on the basis of that. Yeah. Then now we have WASREP, which is another regulatory agency within the ministry. This is the one that now works through the water service providers to now identify those people who are supplying water, who are vending, and then be able to take them through regulatory process. Now, the water service provider also on another aspect normally have locations along the distribution line where bulk water vendors can come in with their bozers, they abstract water, and then they're able to now deliver to the hard-to-reach places. Mm-hmm. And for them to be able to access such kind of water, they have the water service provider will have to take them through a process. So those are the requirements, or those are the processes that we subject to the people who do the vending of water.
Do you have the capacity to check on the quality of water?
Well, if the sources are known, especially like boreholes, and as I've said, the vending points under the municipality or the county water vending place, then we can guarantee. But now, when there is scarcity, like during time of drought, at times to verify where the sources are coming from, it becomes a challenge. Yeah.
Now, there's been a proposal to actually subsidize water tariffs for low-income households and regulate vendors. Is this feasible? Is it achievable?
Again, through the Water Service Regulatory Authority, when we are setting prices, we look at the entire society, such that we look at the pricing is in bands. So 0 to around 6 cubic meters, I think, is assumed that these are the people who are from the low income. The tariff there is very low. And so if your consumption is not beyond that capacity, then it is highly subsidized. But now for the heavy consumers, now they go to another tariff band. So that is what happens, so that you don't just, because price discrimination is a problem. How do you discriminate somebody from the other? But we can do that using meters, because if you have a meter at your place and you consume below the threshold, then you will benefit from the low tariff, just the same way the electricity people do. And then if you now go beyond a certain level, then
Now, the water sector has been dogged by, scandals and graft. For example, the Itare Dam, where 28 billion shillings was lost. That eroded trust. How are you dealing with this from a both investor and, public point of view?
I think what I want to say is that on the Itare, you see, at times what is reported is not what is on reality. Right. I've had the opportunity since I came in to look through the documents, and also going by what the court ruled was that no impropriety of money was experienced. But now, because this was money that was coming in from donors, and when they had such allegations, they walk away. We are now in the process of reviving the project. Right. We are talking to the same development partner that was supporting us, and they have agreed. So we are in the process of, I believe before the end of this year, works will resume, so that now we can complete that project. I think what I would want to urge Kenyans is that allegations will always be made. And at times you find this business rivalry maybe a certain rival got a lucrative business deal with government, and the only way to derail them is maybe to pass allegations. So what we've done also as a ministry is that we have instituted very strict procurement processes, and then we've also gone and said, how do we win the confidence of investors? One is to now make water attractive to private investors. So we've amended the law, Water Act 2023, amendment of 2024, sorry, and that one now has made it expressly, it is given a provision that PPPs, private sector, can invest in water. And as we are talking, as a result of that, we are now processing about 6 PPP projects. One for Lamu desalination project, which will abstract seawater, treat and then distribute to water to people. We have an investor who is coming in to invest in boreholes, the high-yielding boreholes in Sabaki, to supply additional water to Malindi, Watamu, Kilifi, and also North Coast, Mombasa. So you can see, because of that action alone, now investors have confidence to come into the country. We have another investor that we are developing a project for them to supply water to SEZ Naivasha. And so you can see, because of the making sure that the law is very clear, the policy is very clear, investors are coming. Yeah.
Now, on that particular point of transparency, you know, and wooing investors, there's also been called to have all water projects contracts online. Is this something that you're exploring, or is it being done, you know, for transparency purposes?
It's a requirement. It's a policy directive from the presidency that when we award a project, then the contract is supposed to be put into the PPRA website, and that one we comply as a ministry.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, also, one of the programs that was introduced to tackle graft was the Maji Voice program. This was introduced in March 2023. What is the status report, and has it met its objective?
I think that is a private-led initiative,
yes,
and again, being open to people to scrutinize what we do. I believe they have not given us any report, because I think maybe during their course of work, they have not seen anything improper within this water sector. But we are open to such kind of scrutiny, so that we can give confidence first to investors and also to the Kenyans who are expecting us to deliver. Like as we are talking now, we've just now commissioned what we call it audit committee. This is, I think, one of the very few ministries now that has private sector who are part of members who will be looking at our audits and just checking through that we are doing the right thing. So we as a ministry, we're very open to being open, because the only way to increase transparency and confidence and also remove the perception that wrong things do happen is to be open.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let's focus on matters of pollution. Now, reports from NEMA indicate some factories dump toxins into rivers, you know, either the Nairobi River or even the Athi River, just to mention but at a few. What are you doing in this regard?
I think over the last 3 years or so, as we are approaching to complete Thwake Dam, I think concern has been with the pollution that is happening along Nairobi River. What are we doing as government? I believe you've heard the government set up Nairobi Rivers Commission, which I am a member of the commission. When last year, we quickly put a team of technical experts from the ministry. We also had some expertise from China and other places, and we were tasked to come up with a master plan on how to improve the the water in the river or Nairobi rivers. So we quickly put that team together. We've designed, we have finalized, and I think if you recall, about 3 weeks ago, the president was commissioning the Nairobi Rivers Regeneration Project. Now, within this project, we are transforming Nairobi River into be the front of Nairobi, where people can go and have leisure walk, have activities that are recreational. So we will deepen the river, we will expand, line it with concrete, create water cleaning, that is water ponds, to slow the water so that the water can be self-cleaning. There are some places where we'll put also reeds, because reeds are the best way of absorbing toxins and all that. And then along the banks on both sides of the rivers, we are putting a 12-meter diameter sewer line, which will intercept all the dirt from all the city and divert it all the way to Ruai, where the treatment plant. We'll also put about 17 decentralized treatment sections where we, like especially near the informal settlement, the sewer from such places will be diverted there, pre-treated, and when it is safe, then it is put into the main transmission line to go to Ruai to complete the treatment. We'll also, under the same, provide places where people can do sorting, because we also want to create industries around it. So young people will be going there to sort waste, and then now those that can be recycled will be recycled. Yeah.
Now, PS, on that particular plan, especially on Nairobi water, let's play it against the current statistics. It indicates that urban areas, at least 35% of Nairobi's sewage is untreated, and it is one of the main causes of contamination, and we are focusing on Nairobi River. We are creating that, you said how many diameter? 12? 12.
Which will now transmit
all the way to Ruai.
So that now even floods will not be able to spill and go into the river. Yeah.
But then we're also having a pertinent issue is that 35% of Nairobi sewage is untreated. Where is the challenge? Where is the missing gap in all this?
Well, I don't think it is. I think what was meant was that it's supposed to be, it was 35, and that is an old report.
So
Nairobi
what's the status
covered.
report?
As we are talking, is about 66. Actually, Nairobi is a place that has got the highest sanitation coverage.
Right.
That 66% of the residents have access to a good form of sanitation. Then the rest are either using septic tanks, which are emptied and then taken to the disposal places. We have two projects that are going on in Nairobi. One funded under the French government, the other one funded under the Africa Development Bank. And this, we are now focusing on the informal settlements, where, like right at the moment, we are doing Ruiru, we are doing Ruai, we are doing even Dandora and other places where we are connecting them to sewage. And this has been very successful, especially on the Ruai area and Ruiru, because now streets which were before, during rain, because the septic tanks would fill and they spill to the road. Right now, those people are connected to the sewer.
Right.
And we hope that in another, by 2030, Nairobi should be fully covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Ruai. Now, concerns have been raised by residents of Ruai over the sewer plant posing a health hazard due to the methane gas, that is emanates from there. What are you doing about that?
On that one, we've expanded, first of all. We think, this facility was meant to treat about 350,000 cubic meters per day. Now we are generating over 700. So over the last few years, like now, we've expanded 2 more bonds, and then another 2 are coming in. And with that now, we will have, the waste will have sufficient time to be degraded so that it becomes and cleaned before it is released into the river. The other thing also is that we are now exploring modern ways of waste disposal, which will harvest that methane It can be used for heating and other things. And then, so we are now looking for a new technology. I believe Nairobi County also is exploring waste-to-energy plant to be able to handle the Dandora dam site, because that is also another source of a lot of pollution into the river Nairobi. And we believe, I think in another 2 years or so, there is a private proponent that has shown interest in putting together that waste-to-energy plant. So I think the urgency to clean Nairobi River, reduce pollution, is in earnest, and is because from early next year, we will start impounding water in Thwake. And we cannot afford that to get there.
All right. Yeah. Now that you've mentioned Thwake, Thwake has been one of those projects that has, it was considered a flagship project, and I still believe it is, but it has faced a lot of delays. Yeah, maybe you can just give us, in a nutshell, where are we at, and when are we going to see, it meet its objective?
Okay. Where we are at the moment is we are 94% complete. The dam wall is complete. What is remaining now is the concreting to now waterproof it, so that it cannot allow water, because it's a rock-filled dam. If it is left the way it is, water will seep through. So now we are concreting, which was part of the engineering designs, and we will start we completed the wall in, I think it was 18th of June last year, and dam safety experts instructed us to wait until the wall fully settles, and they gave us the parameters. The measure of the same was done in January, end of January, and now we have told it has settled completely, and we've been given the green light to start the concreting. So the contractor has been given instructions. They have come up with a new work plan, and we'll start concreting anytime this month, so that by August we will have completed the concreting. Then we install the gates, and then we start impounding water. Hopefully by the short rains of December, we will start.
Thwake will be up and running.
Will be up and running.
That will be welcome news, given the delay of around 4-5 years, so to speak. Now, let's hear from the members of the public. Tonight, we are hosting Julius Korir, who is the Principal Secretary in charge of water and sanitation. We had several questions that we had posed to you on our various social media platforms, including right here. I had mentioned it when we were starting. One of the questions was, what is your main source of water at home? Water harvesting seriously? And last but not least, why do you think we still have Kenyans, some parts of the county, practicing open defecation? Here's what Kenyans had to say, and this is our feedback. Teresa Mutai was across the country and compiled the following feedback that we're going to be playing for you at home, as well as a PS here at the Kenya Water Institute. Let's have a listen.
What is the water situation within the country? Is safe and clean drinking water accessible to Kenyans? Let's find out.
I think no, because there are some places in Kenya where there are shortages of water.
We have a lot of water that is rain, especially now, April and March, but the all water utapata imeenda back to the ocean. So Kenya, we have not invested a lot in the water reserved.
Kila mwaka tukipata baraka ya mvua, what happens in Garissa ni kwamba hapa Garissa, and particularly our farmers suffer heavily because of the dams being released upstream. When that happens, the floods completely destroy our farms.
Hapo sisi tunakunywa maji ya borehole. Na hiyo maji ya borehole is a very challenging. Unaona venye kama mvua imenyesha maji na kuja chafu. Huwezi kunywa maji, huwezi pikia. So wakazi wa huko mostly wanatoka naenda kununua maji.
Tunatumia tap water. Na ile tap tunatumia maji ya kanjo. Haikuji kila siku. Inakuja twice a week. Sasa inabidi unatafuta majerican, mamitungi, madrums, sasa ndio uweze kustoa maji. Na sana tunapotumia maji ya tap Hata choo ile ya kufurahisha tutumii sana, inabidi kwanza tuna save maji, na kama uko na wageni inabidi naomba choo ya ratini kwa neighbor.
We have water twice a week, and one challenge we're facing is that the water we're getting, we have the water is not like clean. The water that we fetch ikona vumbi. Once it settles, ukiangalia huku chini unapata it has like something, I don't know kama ni dawa ama nini, but inakaa mchanga.
Tunatumia ya kanjo na siku hizi hata ikuji, unapata inakuja kwa wiki mara moja, na sometimes niko kazi napata hata kama saa hii sina maji kwa nyumba.
Saa ingine una hiyo pesa ya kwenda kulipa choo kwa kanjo, so inabidi umekojoa huku hata kwa street, unaona.
Unajua saa hii tunalipa hii choo ya 10. Sasa wangeweka choo ni free, ingekuwa inaeleweka. Juu saa hii unapata si kila mtu anapata 10. Mimi naweza pata 10 lakini mwingine hapati 10. Wakiallow hizo public toilets zikuwe free na kukua kuna mtu wa kumaintain cleanliness hapo ndani, at least unaweza pata hata hakuna haja kuchafua mazingira ovyo ovyo.
Well, now there you have it, PS. Let me just give you a quick summary. There are those who are saying maji ya kanjo only comes twice a week. It's not enough. They're forced to have jerrycans in their homes, and they have to have a pit latrine during that time. They're also talking about they do not quite see there's a lot of water that is wasted during the heavy or rather rainy season. We're not serious about water harvesting. There are those who have said it is too expensive to pay for the county washroom facilities that are strewn across the county level, so they just opt to help themselves where they can. Your responses in that as we continue sampling some of those that you're getting on social media platforms.
Okay, thank you, Regina. I think on the issue of the water harvesting, I would like to urge all of us Kenyans that this is a collective responsibility, and we should all strive to collect as much as possible of the rainwater. For government, what we've done is that we are currently exploring ways to create a fund which we'll be using to harvest the rainwater that we see, floods that normally flood most of our lowlands. And we are making breakthrough, and hopefully within a very short while we will be announcing a big breakthrough.
Maybe you can take this opportunity to tell us what you're looking at in terms of how much this particular project is going to cost us. In the range of?
First of all, maybe let me give you the perspective of
all
the
right.
need.
Okay.
We did what we are calling National Water and Sanitation Investment Plan. This is a plan because we wanted to see how much will it take us to achieve 100% coverage, every Kenyan getting water and also sanitation. That plan estimated the cost of investment to 100 billion. 995 billion. That's about 1 trillion shillings. Now, when you look at the allocation under government, I think by that time we'll only manage about 30%. And then when you look at the development partners that are working with us, they can also contribute another 30%. So we have a deficit of 40% where we need to get an innovative way of funding. So one of the innovation is the PPP, which I told you, which we have finalized the act now it is providing. We've also said, how can we change the narrative under the climate adaptation or climate change work? Because climate change is water. Climate change crisis is actually water crisis, because of climate change, we have long periods of droughts, and when the rains come, we have floods. So how then can we convert the development money that is available under the climate change agenda, to help us in tapping that and storing that water. So we have what we are calling it climate change adaptation financing plan for water harvest in Kenya. And that one, we have initially said for the next 5 years, we want just to target 100 billion, which would help us to harvest the water that is flowing by flood. Then going into the future, we're also looking at innovating some of the other regulatory work to be able to create a fund that is able to help us in the to do the water harvesting. So water harvesting is a heavy investment need, and we are now innovating on how we can raise the money to be able to do that. I think the other thing, and I could suspect these were residents of Nairobi.
Yes, Nairobi seems that they're having a challenge. They've actually gone further to say that they only receive water twice a week.
Actually, this must have been away earlier. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we've just finished 2 projects within Nairobi that have brought collectively 140 million liters per day to Nairobi. We have Karumenu, which is bringing in 70,000 cubic meters per day. And then we have Northern Collector, which is bringing 120 cubic meters per day.
This is additional?
Additional.
Against a consumption of?
Before this project was completed, Nairobi was receiving 500,000 cubic, about 470 actually.
470.
Now we are supplying 700,000 cubic meters against a demand of 900. So we've reduced the deficit by half, which means, and those of us who are in Nairobi, if you, over the last 4 months, you've been seeing, first of all, the rationing has reduced from 2 days to now, getting water 2 times a week to now about 4 times. And most of the residents in all of Nairobi, for the first time, water now is reaching a place in Kasarani, which is near Tala. And thanks to the project that we're talking about, people along Mombasa Road, Kitengela now are getting water, Mavoko are getting water, Embakasi area, the Nyayo estate, which had a challenge of water for so long, now they're getting water, thanks to the Northern Collector. And places like Langata, places like Karen, they're also getting water. And if you've noticed, and I want to really thank the Nairobi Water Company, because for a long time, the pipelines, because they didn't have water, they didn't know they were dilapidated. But now as you drive along Upper Hill, anywhere else, you'll find pipes just oozing water, and they have done a good job in repairing, so that now we reduce the non-revenue water that could be lost through the breakages. So I think I can say for water Nairobi, we've reduced significantly the rationing. I think on the issue of sanitation, again, ideally, and again, especially within towns, it's run by counties. And maybe because of failure to maintain them, they thought they undertake what we call PPP, where young people around there are allocated a sanitation facility where they maintain it, and in return they are paid for it, to keeping it clean. So, but ideally it should be free, but again, those are the realities.
Those are the counties.
Yeah.
But then we had a curious case of a strange disease in Kisii, and reports indicated that it was because of open defecation down in Kisii, in those rural areas. What are we doing about this challenge? And how much would it ideally take, for a construction of a decent sanitation facility?
Sanitation becomes a challenge, especially in the rural places. And this is where government is encouraging every homestead to have a pit latrine. Because of the unstructured nature of the rural places, it is very hard to provide proper sewerage facilities. It's only in urban areas that now we are focusing as national government, working with the counties to invest in the emerging towns, because the former municipalities, all of them have sewerages, which we are expanding to cope with the expanding population. But then there are these new towns that are emerging where planning is not proper, and this is where now we are working with the counties to institute proper planning and also invest in sanitation. For rural places, we've urged the county governments, because again, that is where they come in to encourage homesteads, families, to now have a proper sanitation, either pit latrines or even biodigesters or whatever it takes, so that we reduce this menace of contamination from sanitation into the drinking water. Yeah.
Now, there's a question here, and this is a concerned resident from Kisumu. He says, the lake is disappearing. Not only are we dealing with the hyacinth, we also have the plastic menace. Ask the PS. I'm asking the PS. What is your department doing about the plastic situation on Lake Victoria?
Again, okay, this is where the cross, what do you call it? Working with multi-sectoral approach. Issues of pollution is managed by NEMA. For us, ours is reduced pollution caused by sanitation. And I think Kisumu is one of the few towns in Kenya that we are investing heavily in sanitation improvement. As I was there over the weekend, where we were inspecting the works of improving sanitation in Kisumu, which is around 84%. We hope to complete by June this year. Right. But when it comes to the menace of plastics, I think this requires, first of all, awareness and responsibility by the citizens. Throwing plastics, like especially the water bottles, the soda, and others, throwing anyhowly is not proper. So first is the discipline by the citizens. Then number two is the counties to provide places, designated places where you can drop these bottles, and then the recycling people can pick it up. Yeah.
We take a quick break, but when we come back, we continue sampling your feedback. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. My X handle is at Ray Manyara. We have PS in charge of water and sanitation with us tonight, and that is Julius Correa responding to your feedback. A quick breather. We'll be right back. Keep sending that feedback.
The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Inuka na Loto Moto sasa kwa star 570 hash option ya 4 kuna kashamba juja na nika 50 by 100 worth 1.7 million Kenyan shillings. Na hii si shamba tu, iko kwa prime location, few minutes from Juja Town. Stima yako iko ndani, na kama ni development rapid and so promising. Na mambo ya landlord, mwisho wa mwanzo ni hapa. Ukishinda hili shamba tunakuongeza 1 million Kenyan shillings ujijengee nyumba yako kwa shamba yako. Kuinuka na Loto Moto ni kucheza sasa hivi kupitia star 570 hash option ya 4 au register deposit na ucheze sasa hivi kwa www.tushinde.com na ujishindie shamba hili na addition of 1 million Kenyan shillings. Inuka na Loto Moto.
Tasty breakfast just for you. Enjoy.
How special is this Dan of yours?
Niaje madhe, nilijua kuna something fishy na hapa.
Nini na mimi sijui?
Nikupin. Hizi mapepa zote, kanairo yote.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nilikuwa chei kazi ukaanza kuichezea.
Can we talk privately? What's wrong?
Somebody's dead.
I know, people died.
Jua hii, damu itakuwa kwa mikono yetu.
Wacha waende wamtupe huko kwa bahari.
Morning, madam.
Biblia inasema an eye for an eye. Hakuna mtu atajua amekufa.
Who is dead?
Regina Manyara.
Welcome back, and tonight we're looking at water and sanitation, and we've been sampling your feedback. And thank you, keep it coming. I want to sample Halima. She says, I grew up fetching water. I'm still fetching water in my home as a grown-up. When will we get this water that PS is talking about? You. Bona PS, what do you tell Halima tonight? Then she says she's from? Let me see, let me get that.
Okay.
She's from Mandera, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Halima, for that very good question. I think for Mandera, it depends on where you're coming from. We have an investment in Mandera right now as we are talking of about 1.2 billion shillings, where we will be drawing water from River Dawa, treat it, and then distribute it for the entire of Mandera. So if she's from around Mandera town, we will, that one is an issue of within this year, water will be available. Number two is that we have a program funded under the World Bank, which is called Horn of Africa. And it's targeting the 5 border counties of Turkana, Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa. And we are drilling over 400 boreholes in all over those 5 counties, which will supply water. We've already worked with the county governments to identify the places where they have in dire need. About 150 boreholes are being rehabilitated, and then the balance of 250 will be dug afresh. So again, the criteria is distance, that is population around there. There is no other borehole nearby, and then the capacity of borehole to be able to supply water to a long distance. So for such places as northern Kenya, we have a number of projects that are in the pipeline. We have even, like for Mandera, a place called Taka, of about 1 billion shillings. Again, we are looking at that northern part of the country as a place where we want to accelerate water coverage in those areas. Yeah.
I hope Halima has heard that, and we'll be looking forward to the launch of that. So we also asked our viewers on our social media platforms, that is on X, what is your main source of water at home? What is your main source of water at home? And this is how they responded. Let's have it on screen there. Rainwater accounted for 16.3%. Tap water, courtesy of the county government, at 44.9%. Borehole accounted for 34.7%, while those who participated at 4.1%, they said they get their water from water vendors. What do you have to say about this particular statistic? It points, or rather alludes to the fact that the last mile maybe connectivity is working in some areas.
Actually, I'm glad to see that, because it's sort of now sort of validating what I said earlier, that water coverage is around 73%.
Yes.
So, I think, but our goal is that by 2030, if we are able to lay our hands on the resources that are necessary, we will have every Kenyan connected to water and have reasonable sanitation in their doorstep.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, as we come to a close, there's someone who's raised a query on something that we had put up, or rather some statistics that how can we be in the 21st century and we're still practicing open defecation? So what is the status report? Because looking at the report that I have of around 2024 indicates 15 counties. Is it 15 counties, or have we made inroads to eradicate this? I don't know. It's unhygienic.
Okay.
Yes.
I think earlier when we started, I had said that sanitation coverage in the country is around 93%.
93%. That
now,
gives 7.
About 7%.
Right.
Now, those would be in the 15, but I know that number of counties have come down. What we've done is that we've just passed a sanitation policy, which is the very first in Kenya since independence. It is going through approval by Parliament, but that has not stopped us from starting the implementation. And now we have identified about 1 billion shillings to target the open defecation. So we will be working very closely with the county governments in mapping out the areas that this practice is rampant, and then we will work with the communities to compel them to now have containment measures, either pit latrines or any other form of sanitation that will be suitable for them. Yeah. So the sanitation policy, as I've said, being the first one, is I think the first move that is going to address that. Then the next within the sanitation policy also is that we are targeting emerging urban centers, because we realize that because of urbanization, towns are emerging, but nobody's thinking about sanitation.
I like where you've come from, because someone has also questioned about the capacity of the affordable housing projects across the country to have the to sewer. Should we be?
I don't think that we should be concerned. As part of the BQs of developing those houses, Ministry of Housing has provided for connection of this infrastructure into the nearby sanitation. When it is far, we work together, and then we come and do the main trunk that takes that connects now the houses to the sewerage facilities. So we are working very closely together as government. Like, for instance, we were in Kisumu the other day. There's about 2,000 units that are nearly complete. We now adjusted our sanitation project that we were doing there to provide a main trunk line to connect those affordable houses to the sewer line. And the same here in Nairobi and other places where affordable houses are happening.
All right.
Yeah.
So we were doing a midterm. So we'd want to know, we're giving you an opportunity. If you were to given an opportunity to give yourself a score on water and sanitation in the last 2.5 years, what percentage would you have?
It's hard to say.
Imagine you freehold, like grade yourself in this exam. We're grading
Maybe,
ourselves.
let me first of all, before I give the grade,
All right.
I will want to point a few things.
All right.
One, over the last 2 years, we've connected over 6 million people to water. And I have examples. I mentioned about the Karumeno. I've talked about the Northern Collector. We have water projects in Migori. We have water projects in Homa Bay, in Siaya, in Nandi, in Trans Nzoia. We have in Meru, we have in Nyeri, we have in Murang'a, we have in Kiambu. That has connected about above 6 million. The same time also, we have also connected about 1.2 million people to sewerage. And again, we have severages that have been completed in Meru, we have in Chuka, we have in Kerugoya, we have in Narok, and these are functional. Towns that didn't have sewerage facilities, they already have. We have several water dams that are completed and water treatment systems that are completed. And that's why when I started, I said we've increased coverage from 70% to now 73%. We've increased sanitation from sewerage from 16% to around 44%. And but overall sanitation is around 60 something percent. So in a nutshell, I think we are above average. We are approaching a B. If
we are
not
approaching
B,
a B.
If not B.
B of 65 or B of 70? Which B? Because we need to...
B of 69.
Around 69.
Yeah.
We'll be here to check for the next 2.5 years. And I'm
being modest.
And you're being modest. Okay. Modesty is good. Thank you very much for making time, Bonapius, and engaging us in this conversation. Remember, tonight we have been looking at the hits and misses on water and sanitation in its delivery of better there 2.5 years in. And taking us through has been none other than PS in charge, that is Julius Korir there. With the take-homes is that, first of all, when it comes to sanitation, it has to start from the public, and also a multi-sectoral approach when it comes to matters of tackling pollution in the water bodies Also, there are some of the take-homes on water is that you need to remember that you need to conserve water on an individual capacity. We also want to acknowledge the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Water Institute, that is Lerio Letangule. He has been our host tonight. This is a headquarter. This is a semi-autonomous government department that is charged with also training of professionals in this particular value chain and also offering services at a fee. You've been watching KBC Channel 1. The shift now, I hand you over back to Broadcasting House for normal programming. I'm Regina Manyara.
The Shift with
Thank you for staying with us. This is the business news. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, the government has rolled out the 2025 edition of the Cyber Game Challenge that targets to identify and nurture a new generation of cybersecurity experts who can protect the nation's digital space. Here is Frederick Moki with the details.
The Kenya Cyber Security Report of 2024 says Kenya faces a shortage of cyber security professionals with fewer than 500 trained experts in a population of over 50 million people. ICT and the Digital Economy Principal Secretary Engineer John Tanui says by involving students, young professionals and enthusiasts, the government hopes to identify and support a new generation of cyber security experts.
As a government, we want to unlock more opportunities for our young people. When you check online, there are close to 3.5 million opportunities in software development. And this is the area we want to prepare our Kenyan youth so that they can access opportunities in the cyberspace, especially cybersecurity.
He was speaking during launch of this year's edition of the Cyber Game Challenge, which will test the skills of participants in identifying and mitigating various types of cyber attacks.
So I want to encourage our stakeholders to support this initiative and our young people to participate through the guidance that has been given. There is the website that has been mentioned. You can log in, participate, follow these guidelines, note the duration that we have.
The reason why we accepted the instance and the reason why we accepted this inaugural game in Kenya, one, is to help develop cybersecurity teams, skills for our youth. It's mainly targeted to our youth right from the tertiary universities at the moment.
Through a series of levels and tasks, the games will help participants understand critical aspects of online security, including data protection, ethical hacking, malware detection, and network security. Frederick Moki for Prime Edition.
Costly maize flour and vegetables pushed inflation to a 9-month high despite fuel prices remaining suppressed in March. The monthly inflation report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that the cost of goods and services increased by 2.9% in March to 3.5%. The monthly inflation remains well below the official 5% ceiling.
Kenyan households continue to feel the pinch as inflation reaches a 6-month high. The latest Consumer Price Index report shows that inflation rose to 3.6% in March, up from 3.5% the previous month. The increase was largely driven by higher food, transport, electricity and cooking gas costs. Core inflation, which excludes food, fuel and transport, held steady at 2.2%, while non-core inflation dropped to 7.4% from 8.2% in February. The food and non-alcoholic beverages index rose by 0.7%. Among key food items, prices of sukuma wiki, Irish potatoes, maize grain and beef increased by 6.2%, 4%, 3.3% and 0.9% respectively. However, some staple foods saw slight price drops, with sugar falling by 0.7% and beans by 0.2%. The housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuel index edged up by 0.2%, primarily due to a 0.2% rise in LPG prices. Additionally, electricity costs for 50 kilowatt and 200 kilowatts users increased by 1% and 0.9% respectively. Meanwhile, non-food items also saw price hikes. Local flight fare surged by 3.9%, contributed to a 1.5% rise in the transport index. Despite some price drops, rising costs in key sectors continue to strain households' budgets, making life increasingly expensive for many Kenyans. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
And that is the business news. Sports news is coming up. Daniel Wahome is already on standby. There he is. My name is Betty Kiptum. I hand you over to Daniel Wahome.
Thank you very much, Betty, for the business news. Things to do with enhancing cybersecurity, very important for this country, and also inflation. We now know where to tighten our belts. Moving on to the sport is that the Kenya National Masters team to the just concluded World Masters Championship will return home tomorrow from the United States, where they competed in the 2025 edition of the event that ended yesterday in Florida. The Kenyan team returns home with a total of 8 medals, 5 gold and 3 silver, after Eric Sikuku won a gold medal in the 10-kilometer walk race, which was the last event of the tournament. It was a second gold for Sikuku, who had also won the 3,000-meter race walk. The other Kenyan gold medalists in the tournament were Peter Mwangi in the shot put, Francis Bowen in the 3,000 meters, and Millicent Doro in the 200 meters. The Kenyan silver medalist in the championship that attracted 4,000 athletes from 98 countries were Regina Mulathia, who won 2, and Ibrahim Makonjo Muya. And two-time New York Marathon champion Jeffrey Kamworor will headline the 2025 Rotterdam Marathon, set for the 13th of this month. Kamworor holds a personal best of 2 hours, 4 minutes and 23 seconds, achieved at the London Marathon. In February, he finished second in the 2025 Barcelona Half Marathon behind Uganda's Jacob Kiplimo, Belgium's Bashir Abdi, and holds a Rotterdam Marathon course record of 2 hours, 3 minutes and 36 seconds, set in 2021. He nearly matched that mark in 2023, finishing in 2 hours, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. And that's the sport for tonight, when we've got the Tuesday and it's the shift. So more to come tomorrow. We'll be updating you on what's happening at the Sunshine Development Tour East African Swing Qualifying School Tournament. There's 1 million shillings up for grabs from 50 golfers. How they're going to distribute it, that's just part of it. And keeping up with our junior teams as they prepare for friendlies and the under-20 AFCON. My name is Daniel Wahome. Have a good evening. Back to you, Irene and Tom.
Daniel Wahome for that sporty update. Earlier on, we did have Betty Kiptum
with the day's business. Well, on behalf of the Prime Edition team, we want to thank you for your patience. My name is Mboya.
I am Muchuma Odim. Our sign language expert tonight, we have Byron Abuli. Earlier on, we had Susan Tuku.
Oh, yes, and we've got to go now. Thank you so much. We'll be back again next week, Monday and Tuesday.
Good night.
And God bless.
Jet A1. Cheza Aviator bila data, bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Aviator bila data. Aviator bila credo. Uko na kabambe? Wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1. michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.